Je vous présente aujourd'hui le budget 2025-2026 du
Quebec Finance Minister Éric Girard tabled the government's seventh budget on Tuesday afternoon at the National Assembly, an unprecedented one under the context of the trade war with the U.S. The budget, titled For a Strong Quebec, came with a focus on supporting businesses and workers as U.S. tariff threats continue to sow economic turmoil. It turns out that Quebec's deficit for this past fiscal year didn't reach the $11 billion mark that had initially been projected. It was actually $10.4 billion, but this next one surpasses it, with the government forecasting a record $13.6 billion for the next year, which includes a legally required transfer of $2.2 billion into a fund dedicated to reducing debt. The $165.8 billion budget invests $5.4 billion over 5 years on measures to stimulate the economy, as the trade war is expected to cut 0.7 percentage points from this year's GDP growth, now forecast to rise by 1.1%. Girard also budgeted an extra $11 billion over 3 years for major infrastructure projects, including for schools, hospitals, and transportation, to help maintain jobs and economic growth. His budget assumes that tariffs recently imposed by President Donald Trump and those that may still come will be the equivalent of 10% over the next 2 years. Some changes are coming for car owners. Those with electric vehicles will have to pay an annual contribution of $125 starting in 2027 to finance the road network, similar to the tax on gasoline. It also means the end of free travel on toll bridges and ferries starting in April 2027. Luxury car owners will have to pay an additional 1% of the vehicle's market value above $40,000. To account for rising car prices, Quebec is raising this threshold to $62,500 starting in 2027. Insurance premiums will go up. The tax on insurance premiums will increase by almost 1% in 2027, bringing it in line with the Quebec sales tax rate of 9.975%, which would be an average increase of $39 a year for Quebecers paying $4,000 annually in home and car insurance. The government hopes to raise $3 billion over 5 years with the help of cutting or modifying tax credits. Parents claiming a tax credit for their child's childcare expenses will be able to do so until their child turns 14 rather than 16, and Quebec is abolishing its tax shield, a tax credit that compensated lower income workers who lost certain benefits after an increase in employment income.
Despite the pressures on the government financial situation, I'm announcing today that the action identified as part of the review of fiscal and budgetary expenditure will enable us to achieve an accounting surplus in 2029-2030.
Girard adding that Quebec's finances remain under control and the province can still avoid a recession. In Montreal, Alyssia Rubertucci, City News.